Well, a lot has been building up to today. It's opening day for the South Bend Cubs.
Investigators spent much of today combing through this stretch of Highway 75.
Yeah, but get this, the couple had 12 boys in a row. So now they're wondering if this will finally be the one wearing pink.
You can see this orange liquid on my arm and hand here. This is flame retardant that two aircrafts are actually dropping down from the sky. They're yelling, "Bring her out." They seem to believe that Officer Betty Shelby is inside the Mayo Hotel. Looks like they're going to camp out here outside Mayo Hotel for at least a little bit. They've put their signs up on the door.
Brand new headgear for the Booker T. Washington boys soccer team. What it does for the players coming up. One of the first things Melissa Matias noticed when she got home from work was this shattered window. Someone used a brick to get inside her home, buy a gun, stick it in their holster, and openly carry it, all without a permit.
There's a lot of neighbors grateful that firefighters are here on scene.
Part of its job as a church is to feed the hungry, but criminals just made that a lot harder to do.
President Obama and Cuban President Raul Castro sat down for a one-on-one meeting in Panama.
Christmas in July, instead of gifts and toys, school supply.
They confirmed this was a stabbing, not inside the McDonald's, but back behind.
These bricks are original to the building. That means they're more than a century old.
Just got on the scene a few minutes ago, and I want to show you what exactly it is we're dealing with here.
Now we want to get right to the latest on our weather, what could be a stormy evening ahead. And today there are still more than 200 veterans waiting for that appointment.
This looks nice.
So we got to get out tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Is the news there. All right, that's WSBT 22 News at 11. Don't forget the news is always on WSBT.com.
The family that owns this dealership tells me that they think someone might have been trying to get revenge on them after they had to repossess his car.
Surveillance cameras at Michoacan Auto Sales show a man approaching this old white Mustang just after midnight early Sunday morning. He gets in and out of the car a few times. Then, with crowbar in hand, he tries to break into the building. No luck there. About 3 hours later, he starts his rampage, walking down the row of used cars for sale, smashing the windows out of each one.
He doesn't try to miss any car. He goes for all of them.
Jennifer Maldonado and her siblings all work at the dealership. Their dad, Domingo, is the owner, so the entire family depends on these sales.
Well, it's devastating because we put in all our hard work into this business, and to just watch someone come in and be careless for what is going on is where we make all our money from.
The vandal hit 28 cars on the lot, and the family tells me most of them aren't insured, so they'll have to pay several thousands of dollars to get them fixed.
The Maldonados think this might be an act of revenge. The Mustang is a repo, they explain, and the vandalism might be a way of getting back at the dealership for repossessing the car. The family did file a police report, but it doesn't help much with peace of mind.
It's safety issues that we have now with the property. We don't feel safe here. We don't know what else to do.
The dealership is offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. If you know anything about this case, call Crime Stoppers or Tulsa Police. Reporting live on the scene on The Story in East Tulsa, I'm Annie Chang, News on 6.
State laws say sex offenders cannot live near schools or public playgrounds, but it says nothing about living right next to their victims. This family is demanding that law be changed.
Danielle Dyer says she no longer feels comfortable in her own home.
I don't feel like I can come home and like this is my safe zone, and it's not really my safe zone anymore.
That's because the man who molested Danielle as a child now lives next door. After serving his prison sentence for lewd molestation, Danielle's step-uncle Harold English moved in with his mother, Danielle's grandmother, only about 100 yards away.
It not only does it like scare me like for my well-being now, but it brings back a lot of things that happened in the past.
The Dyers looked into it and found out that in Oklahoma, it is not illegal for sex offenders to live near their victims. English tells me he notified the sheriff's office before moving in. He and his mother both say this is only temporary.
We've been gone every day looking for a place for him to live and get straightened up, and so he can have a home again.
English did not want to talk on camera, but says he's sorry and given the chance would never commit such an act again.
He's so sorry that that all happened.
That does little for the Dyers' peace of mind. What does help, Danielle says, is that she and her family are now working with state lawmakers to get the sex offender laws changed.
That's just my hope, is that I become a role model and like a positive change for Oklahoma to help other victims of sexual assault.
Several states, including Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Utah, and West Virginia, do have laws against sex offenders living near their victims. Oklahoma, though, does not. Annie Chang, News on 6.
After weeks of not knowing what led to his father's injury, Nick Busby and his family now have answers. The jail gave them his medical records.
But seeing that now, we're seeing the dates and what happened, and there's gaps.
Those records say early in the morning on June 6th, Busby told authorities he'd been vomiting for hours. That's when the jail moved him into a medical unit where a licensed nurse monitored him. A few hours later, Busby got up to get his vitals checked, got dizzy, and fell, hitting his head on the bunk. The nurse cleaned the cut on his head. The treatment she recommended was, quote, lay on side, on mat, on floor. Be careful getting up and get up slowly. Records show it wasn't until the next evening around 6:30 that Busby was taken to the hospital. The medical expert wrote Busby had, quote, altered mental status, needs head CT. Nick and his Aunt Trini now know Busby suffered a brain hemorrhage. They wonder why it took the jail a day and a half to take him to the hospital after the fall.
They didn't react quick enough. There are gaps in the treatment method. Basically, they didn't treat him. They just left him to lay there.
They also want to know why deputies transported Busby in a patrol car, not an ambulance. But Sheriff Vic Regalado says jail personnel did follow protocol from the moment Busby told them about his symptoms.
There's really not anything else we could have done. From a jail staff standpoint, we're not medical professionals, and so we depend on the medical provider to dictate when somebody should go to the hospital.
The sheriff says medical personnel also decide if the inmate needs an ambulance or if a patrol car will suffice.
And they followed protocol, including the transportation of him, and he's receiving medical care.
What sets these guns apart, Jennifer, is that instead of shooting out deadly bullets, they shoot out these little plastic beanbag pellets designed to hurt the suspect but not kill the suspect. And these are saving lives throughout our area.
What if we told you if it was a real person taking this bullet?
So we're going to try to hit him in the leg here.
That person would probably live. That's because this is a less lethal gun. It's the first of its kind, invented, designed, and created right here in Elkhart. Tommy Teach is the founder and CEO of Bruiser Less Lethal. His ML12 Bruiser is the only less lethal handgun on the market right now.
You'll use your left hand to cock. You'll bring your sights up.
The Bruiser looks and shoots just like a real gun.
Lock those elbows out.
But it fires beanbag pellets instead of deadly bullets. Still very painful.
It would be like getting hit by me.
But not deadly.
The Ferguson police officer fires his gun, killing Brown.
Police use of force has been an ongoing debate across the country.
18-year-old Michael Brown is...
And the August 2014 shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, reignited that debate.
Protesting the latest police shooting of an unarmed man.
Then more police-involved shootings followed. One...
Officer Michael Slager fatally shooting Walter Scott in the back.
After another.
An unpaid volunteer reserve deputy meant to use a taser, but instead fired his gun.
And suddenly, more police departments have their sights set on Bruiser Less Lethal.
We're seeing more and more police departments. We're getting phone calls 2, 3, 4 times a day. Hey, we want to take a look at your product.
In fact, several police departments around the country are already carrying the Bruisers. Teach says they are not a replacement for lethal guns, but they are a necessary alternative.
To have to take somebody's life is a terrible thing. Nobody wants to do it.
You're in the house, I need you to come out with your hands up.
And police agree, killing another person, even if the officer is justified in shooting, is still the worst case scenario.
The reality is no officer wants to use deadly force.
For law enforcement, the last thing we want to do at the end of the day is take a person's life.
Several local police departments have long been using some type of less lethal firearm. Michigan City Police have been using beanbag rounds for more than 10 years, and Chief Mark Swistek says they save lives. An incident from February shows us how. The
The suspect, Vincent Tolliver, allegedly shoots his gun inside a drugstore in Illinois, then leads officers on a 75-mile chase across state lines before finally stopping on I-94. Exclusive dashcam video shows the end of a 90-minute standoff with the armed and dangerous gunman. Tolliver gets out of his truck with gun in hand, refusing to get on the ground. Officers shoot him with less lethal beanbag rounds. And that's when Tolliver finally surrenders and lives.
We ended this very stressful and dangerous situation, came to a successful conclusion without taking the life of the young man.
So why doesn't every single police officer in the U.S. carry a less lethal gun? South Bend police say it's ideal, but unrealistic. Because of cost and extensive training, only about 20 of their 260 officers use less lethal.
We'll just selectively train the officers. As a practical matter, there's really no way to equip and train everyone on the department, all 260 officers.
South Bend police have had success with their less lethal technology as well.
This is our 40mm launcher.
Saying they're ideal for incidents like suicidal subjects, hostage situations, suspects on drugs.
We have been doing it. We've been doing it since the early 2000s.
But they're not perfect. It rarely happens, but less lethal guns can kill, especially people who already have serious health problems. What's more, police say some criminals are no longer scared of them.
Nothing's ever 100% certain. We can never be certain that this is going to take somebody down.
So less lethal guns are not the solution, but they are an option, one that could save lives of both the public and police.
I see it on every duty belt in this country.
Now, less lethal guns are also an option for private citizens. The bruisers cost about $600 each, Rick.
And Annie, what about gun licensing and carry laws?
Well, even though they're still considered less lethal, they are a firearm. So that means all the licensing, all the carry laws are exactly the same.